I think I'm going to keep beating the drum and encourage any small business to at least take a look at it. I did have more conversations yesterday with companies that are really looking at bumping their employee pay as part of this, and not just to lure company workers to come back if they've been laid off, but the term hazard pay. I've been getting that question. There are businesses operating that are essential workers. They want to offer something more to their people for being there, because obviously it's a nervous time. Even if they are working, some of them may be concerned. So I think it's a great thing, and it looks like the provisions of PPP, given the fact that you can get 2.5 times your monthly payroll, that could be a potential usage of dollars to offer that type of added bonus or added pay. Along with that, though, something I wanted to mention, and this has been coming up a lot, this unemployment issue. We've talked about it on several calls. It's a very large with the unemployment. I'm not an expert, but I've talked to a lot of companies that are concerned about if they're having people laid off, how do I get them back? My understanding as it sits here today at 9:15 on Tuesday morning is if the company get this program, get these dollars for PPP, off, come back on payroll, come back on your job, we'll pay you. They say no. I like unemployment. I like what I'm making here. I want to stay there. If you do that, they're no longer eligible. They cannot refuse that job and still be eligible for unemployment. Now, granted, everything going on, who knows? I mean, there could be a fight over that, but that is something to think about for businesses. You may want to do it as a reward, but legally speaking, if someone tries to do this and they turn you down because they would like the money they're making on unemployment, that should be grounds for them to not be eligible to receive unemployment. So obviously there's a lot of provisions for what qualifies right now. Certainly anything related to the virus, if there's concern or anybody in the family has the virus. I mean, there are different ways to qualify for unemployment, but simply turning down a job because you want to stay on unemployment is not a justification. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I had that talk with several business folks yesterday about that. So once again, if anyone needs lenders, we have some that are working through the system right now of existing customers, but they've expressed to us a willingness to come on board. I've talked to one or two yesterday that are ready to accept new customers now. So I'll say what I've always said. Talk to your existing financial institution. But if you need somebody new, definitely please let us know. Jody, do you want to jump in and talk about your stuff?
Sure. I know, for those of you who have been on the call, I've been watching the michigan.gov/UIA site to see when those who are self-employed or 1099 employees are going to be able to apply for unemployment. At this time, it is still not available for you to apply. There's still a notice at the top of the page that says that the UIA will release guidance regarding eligibility and the application process in the coming days. So I'm going to continue to watch that. As soon as I see that changes, I will let Justin know so he can get that information out. But I am watching that throughout the day, every day, waiting for something to change there. I wanted to let everybody know about some SBDC conferences or webinars that are scheduled. There is one today that is supposed to cover resources for sole proprietors and freelancers. And I know that's been a big question. It is at 2 p.m. And Justin, I believe you sent out the link yesterday, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So you should have received a link to register. If you do register ahead of time for these courses, after the course, you will receive a recorded version and links to all of the resources that are mentioned during the calls. There are also other calls or other webinars that have been recorded and are available on demand on the SBDC website. So I definitely recommend going if you have any questions. They have covered a wide array of topics. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., they will have a Paycheck Protection Program webinar. And on Friday, April 10th, they will have another open forum. They had one like that on Friday of last week that just covered anything they hadn't been able to cover prior. You can send questions ahead of time as well. So if you're going to participate and you have questions, you can submit those when you register, and they try to cover all of the questions during the call. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that there are lots of good resources on the SBDC Michigan page. There is actually a COVID relief summary that is available that tells you about several different programs and does comparisons of all of those programs side by side. So you can see a summary, the covered period eligibility, the terms, application process, all of that, plus more. So it's a good resource if anybody is looking to try to compare different programs. And everything I'm hearing, which obviously this makes sense, if you are going to take any of these loans or grants or work with any of these programs, documentation is very important. Make sure you are documenting everything that you could possibly need for later. I know SBDC says that you can reach out to them and talk to them if you want to know what you might need to keep track of, but document everything, all of the expenses that you have going out, payroll and otherwise, because you will need that later if you want loans forgiven for the grants for the PPP or just in general. It's very important. I think that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Jody. Appreciate that. I do want to reiterate, and I do this pretty much every day too, there is a secondary SBA program, the Disaster Recovery Loan Program. That is another tool out there. Does have the opportunity to cover additional expenses above and beyond. That's another thing I've heard from several business folks even yesterday was, we appreciate PPP, but we have other bills that don't qualify under PPP. We need other tools and resources. So that is definitely another program out there. I'd encourage you to look at it. I do want to give a shout out. This is a very Owasso specific program. And I've talked about it. It's been a while, maybe, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago, but the city of Owasso has a special program that they're offering. It's not a huge chunk of money, but could make a very big difference, particularly for some small business in the city. It's an emergency response loan program that they've made available to companies in the city who are in a commercial zoning district. So most people don't know their zoning district, so if you have questions, please let me know. But it's the B1 to B4 commercial zoning district, which not only would encompass downtown, but other commercial areas of the city. And as I said, up to $5,000 can be used for a multitude of purposes. I did talk about it a little bit last night with the Owasso City Council. That they did their meeting on Zoom, which was very interesting and went very well, by the way. First time I've ever been on a government meeting like that, and they really did a good job running it. But talked about that program. So it's another tool in the toolkit. I had sent out paperwork on that, as I said, probably a week or 10 days ago. I also shared some updated information on my social media last night. I'll send out another note today with those documents. But if you are in the city of Owasso or you have a client in the city of Owasso, that might benefit from a small chunk of money. Maybe the PPP program doesn't make sense for them, but they'd like to get access. Please check your email, but feel free to reach out to the city. Josh Adams over there at Main Street, he's kind of coordinating things. You can also talk to Nathan Penny, the city manager as well. And I don't know if there's anybody from the city on the call, but if you want to during the comment section, please feel free to jump in. Today at 5 o'clock is a deadline for any Shiawassee County manufacturers to apply for a grant to the Michigan Economic Development Corporation for tooling up or buying equipment to reconfigure their operation to do medical devices, medical equipment, things of that nature. And so we've been encouraging our manufacturers to apply. As you all know, we have a few that are doing it now. I know of at least one company that has submitted paperwork to the state. As of yesterday, they had 206 applications in statewide for this grant program. Between $10,000 and $150,000 for the grant. So really hoping some of our companies, at least a couple, take advantage and get approved for that program. So once again, if you know of any manufacturers in the county that are looking at that, that deadline is today. Along with that, though, something new for everybody. As you know, we've been promoting the donation or connection of companies that can provide personal protective equipment to Memorial Healthcare. We continue to do that. We continue to support that. But what we've also learned is there is other great need out there from some of our other healthcare-related institutions, like assisted living facilities, like home healthcare businesses that are dealing with a population that's vulnerable to the virus. So they have needs for things like gloves and masks and hand sanitizer and all that. So I was part of a Zoom call yesterday to try to be able to connect some of our business community with those providers. There's a number of great people locally that are working on this. Helen Howard, Mary Stone and Duran, Ben Frederick, Jackie Hess, Tom Cook's involved, Marlene Webster, a number of different folks. I applaud all their efforts in what they're doing to try to serve that population as well. So we will be trying to help get the word out there about what the need is, particularly with our business community. Also encourage them to take a look at the state site, the Pure Michigan Business Connect site, where you can put medical care needs on there and connect with businesses from across Michigan that can supply that product. So look for more on that from me here in the very near future. As always, I put out a call for jobs. Anybody that is looking to hire, I did get a couple from yesterday's reference. So once again, if you're a company still in the process of hiring, if you're essential and operating right now, please let me know that. We'd be happy to help promote. And the last thing I'm going to mention, very exciting, I think you know this already, for tomorrow, we have the pleasure of hosting Senator Gary Peters on our call. He will be our keynote tomorrow. He'll be joining us right at the start at 9 o'clock. So please jump on as quickly as you can. How it's going to work is I did request questions from people. You probably saw that message yesterday. And then I will introduce the senator. He will provide introductory remarks. And then I am going to be asking those questions that you all submit. So I've got 5 or 6 lined up now. If you have anything else you might want to ask the senator, please email me today, and I'll make sure that gets included. Now, bonus is on top of Senator Peters, I've gotten notice that our Congressman, John Molinar, looks like he is going to be available to be on our Thursday call. So we're going to get back-to-back federal officials, Senate tomorrow, Congress on Thursday. So very excited and honored that we can get our representatives to participate on this call. So my plan is actually probably to ask the congressman the same type questions we're going to get to the senator. But you definitely want to make plans to join us tomorrow and Thursday. Tomorrow, Senator Gary Peters. Thursday, Congressman John Molinar. So mark those in your calendar. So with that, that is what I have for today. As always, I will open up the floor for anybody to ask any questions or make any comments.
Hey, Justin.
Yeah, Colleen.
I heard yesterday that the governor is wanting to extend the state of emergency for another 70 days into mid-June. Do you know how that affects the stay-at-home order?
The anticipation, what I am hearing, I've been in touch with our representatives. There's been a fair amount of media coverage on this. My anticipation is the legislature will agree to the end of the month. They're not going to agree to a 70-day extension. They're going to agree till the end of April. And that kind of lines up with what we've heard at the federal level, it sounds like. I would think it's going to be shorter, Colleen, but we'll know more probably later today after the legislature votes.
All right, thanks.
Yep, stay tuned. And we'll probably try to get, we are going to try to get Senator Stabenow on here as well, and we'll try to get our state rep and state senator to participate at some point. Ben was on the call last week on another matter, but maybe he can talk specifically about this issue after they deal with it today. So, other questions or comments?
Justin, this is Andrea. I have a quick question. I know you were talking about unemployment, and right now we do have some people on layoff status, just as we're kind of slimming down. But as that climate changes and we go to bring those people back, and at that point, these people will have work available to them. Do you know, is there anything that we need to put in with the UIA to let them know, that work is now available to these employees so that they're not, continuing to be eligible for unemployment and collect on that?
That's a good question. I don't know the specific documentation that needs to be provided. I don't know if Jody or anyone else on the call, can you speak to Andrea's question?
I am not aware of anything, Andrea, but I am going to look. That's the first I've really heard of that, and it's a very good question. So I'm going to try to do some research on that today.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Andrea. Yeah, there's obviously got to be some type of documentation to demonstrate that. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but we'll find that out.
Hey, Justin, this is Barry. How are you?
Hey, Barry. Good.
Good. Hey, a quick question for you. Along those lines with the unemployment, unfortunately, is there anything that the legislature is doing to try to put a better threshold in place? I received 27 unemployment claims yesterday. I have about 100 and some employees. And basically the bar is, and what they're all telling us is, I don't feel comfortable going to work. I have children. I might have flu-like symptoms. And so that bar is ridiculously low right now. And basically all I need to do is say, yeah, I got a little bit of a cough, and it could be COVID, so I really don't want to work, and I'm filing unemployment. Right now, it sounds like the people that I've talked to that are filing, it's basically a simple call if you can get through or online. And basically, there's not a whole lot of criteria that you can basically just say, yeah, I got COVID symptoms, or I have childcare issues, or whatever those 3 or 4 things are. But is there anything being? I mean, this is just getting ridiculous. We have tons of work. We have tons of hours, and we got people left and right saying, "No, don't feel like it."
Yeah, and that's the tough one, Barry. And I sent you that note last week. Yep. I don't know, Nancy, are you on the phone from Klein Griffin?
Yes, I am on the call.
Yeah, can you drafted a good memo on that last week that I shared with our whole list. Can you talk to that, where we stand today on a Tuesday morning with that type of employment situation?
Yeah, as of right now, April 7th, if the employee has the COVID symptoms or has been in contact with someone who has COVID or COVID symptoms, or if they have a child care issue, those are the criteria under Executive Order 2020 number 36 that provides that while generally they would not qualify for unemployment under this executive order, they will qualify. If it's a case where they don't have a child care issue and they don't have COVID symptoms, then they need to be going to work if there's work available. It's to be determined to see how the employees of the Unemployment Insurance Agency are going to start adjudicating these. I have a cough, and so I'm not going to come into work. Being afraid of coming into work in and of itself is not going to be sufficient. But if they do say that they are sick or have been in contact with someone who's sick, then it's likely that they will qualify for limited unemployment benefits. But under another order, that's a 14-day quarantine period. So that's not, the 30-something weeks of unemployment. That's 2 weeks. And once you're well or you've received a negative COVID-19 test, then you can come back to work. Another thing you can do is if your employee says that they think that they have COVID-19, you can request that they be tested to verify that. Now, the problem is many physicians' offices are inundated, and unless you have severe symptoms, they may just tell you to stay home and drink fluids. And so that's where it's going to be more difficult than your normal return to work note from your physician. And there is a new executive order that says that employers cannot retaliate against employees because they have failed to meet the documentation requirements. So we have to be careful with that from an employment standpoint. But if they're claiming that they have a cough, I would say that is not something that's going to get them unemployment for 3 months. It might get them unemployment for 2 weeks. And once they recover, then they need to come back into work. But it's a case by case. If anybody has specific questions, you can email me, nchinonis, CHINONIS @ccglawyers.com.
And the memo that you had put together was great. We're just trying to tread lightly in how we actually communicate that with our team members, because we do have work available and many of our employees do have children. And so we're trying, we want to be thoughtful if there truly is that need. But when you get, almost 30 of them in one day, and I anticipate we're going to get a lot more, it's anything from, well, I'm a more mature individual and I have some health, underlying health conditions, so I don't think it's safe for me to go out, so I'm going to file for unemployment. I mean, it's just a plethora of things across the board. So we want to be thoughtful, respecting people that do truly need that, but also balancing that out with, we do have work available, and when you lose potentially a third of your workforce that have some kind of a symptom or something that may or may not, that makes it pretty challenging.
That's certainly something to consider. Another thing is now the child care facilities, if they're caring for essential workers, they can remain open. So something that some employers have been thinking about, and it's something that you may want to address within your individual businesses, is perhaps a child care stipend. So if there's a child care facility that's available near your office or in that community, if you would provide a stipend of X dollars to go towards child care, that way they don't have that child care excuse, it might make that more enticing for the employee to come into work.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will say, Barry, to your point, I think where you were going with this too, because I've heard this from a couple of other companies, is modifying either at a state or probably would even have to be federal. So this is a question for Senator Peters tomorrow, is basically limiting the level of unemployment benefit to what was being paid before. So basically an employee can't make more money on unemployment than what they were making before, because it is creating a disincentive for people to want to work. So I'm going to guess that's probably going to have to be federal, if only because that's where all the money is coming from to make the unemployment benefits so generous. Because, the state chunk is up to $362 a week, but the federal chunk is $600 a week base for everybody. So, I think that's a very legitimate question and concern out there because, you could be making upwards of $962 a week. And granted, it's not benefits and all of that, but some people, all they're going to say is, man, I'm going to take that $962 check and sit at home on the couch for the next 39 weeks. So definitely a legitimate concern. So I'm going to bring that up with the senator tomorrow. Other questions and comments?
Hey, Justin, this is
Randy
Tyler.
Beatty.
Oh,
Go ahead, Tyler.
Go ahead, Randy.
Okay, I was just going to say I've got a little bit of good news for something that happened. We were informed yesterday that our PPP loan has been approved, and the funds have been secured. So I haven't heard anybody else say that yet. It's probably a bunch, but it's actually happening. So.
All right, good news.
Awesome.
Which institution did you work with on that, Randy?
Capital National.
Okay.
They got on it and got it done quickly. We had our application real early, of course, but
okay.
They got on it and got it done real quickly.
Okay. Very good. Thanks for sharing. There was someone else that jumped in there too.
Yeah, this is Tyler with the MEDC.
Hey, Tyler.
Jumped on a couple minutes late, so I'm not sure who was speaking at the beginning, but on the employee retention credit, is there any kind of one-pager floating around or anything that anyone feels is a good way of explaining that as a piece of collateral?
Are you referring to just questions related to the program?
Yes.
On the IRS website, they do have a FAQ section for that specific credit. So you can look that up, just kind of Google employer retention credit, and look for the IRS FAQs. That might be pretty helpful.
Okay. I will give that a look. Thank you.
And by the way, Tyler, if I need to chat with you on something, I'll call you right after this call if you're available.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you. Other comments and questions?
Justin, this is Rich Doherty.
Yeah. Hey, Rich.
If you can give me a call in your lineup of calls today, I have a potential connection that could help as far as supplies coming into the county. So for medical.
Okay.
So
very
give
good.
Me a call. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good way to put it, Rich. For those that I've been talking to, it is a lineup of calls every day. I actually I keep a tabulation of every company I talk to. Last week, I hit on the button 100 companies that I talked to in Shiawassee County. So busy times. Other comments and questions?
Hey, Justin, it's Randy again. I want to. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Randy.
My question that I still haven't figured out yet is we had one of our employees retire on April 1st as a pre-planned long-term plan to retire. And I don't know if that's going to hurt us as far as the PPP program repayment or not, or forgiveness or not. But that's a good question if we can get to somebody who can answer the question.
If you could join the 2 o'clock webinar today, I think we'll be able to get that answered for you.
Yep, I'll be there.
Okay, very good.
Just,
yep.
this is John. I was just kind of curious. The WASO, what is that? A grant for the commercial zoning?
That's a loan.
That's a loan. Okay.
That's a loan. Yep. So I'm going to see if I can find my plan is to send out. I'm looking back to my email here. I sent this out. Well, it felt like a lifetime ago. I think it was about a week or 10 days ago that I sent it out to everybody, but I will send it out again. It's up to $5,000. The terms are, let me see if I can just tell everybody on the call right now very quickly. You have to be in that zoning district. Let's see. I don't want to take too much time on the call here, but yeah, up to $5,000, 6-month duration. I'm looking for interest rates. It can be for rent, utilities, employee payroll, other business-related debts. 3% money. So, so I'll send out an updated documentation on that, John. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
I just want to kind of chime in on the hazard pay using the PPP, because even if you give them hazard pay, that increases the opportunity to use the PPP for other expenses as well. I just want to think that the hazard pay idea was a good idea. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it's, when you can get 2.5 times the payroll, that really offers the opportunity, I think, to increase compensation. Obviously, it's short term because you can only get 8 weeks of it forgiven. But, I think it's just a creative way, once again, to try to not only bring workers back, to reward ones that are already working and having to deal with this. So, other comments or questions? Okay. Well, just a reminder, next 2 days, Senator Peters tomorrow at 9, and then Thursday, John Molinar will join us. So hopefully you'll all be able to attend, and wish you all a good day. Thanks.
Thanks, Justin.